look at that. Okay. I thought I'd use it because I never use it. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of the Placer County Local Agency Formation Commission of Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. It is 4 p.m. And we'll start with the call to order and a salute to the flag. Cherry, will you lead us? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll go to roll call. Is this going to be Miss Megan or Miss Kelsey? Okay, Kelsey, you're on.
Commissioner Alpine? Commissioner Burris?
Here.
Commissioner Carlson?
Here.
Commissioner Landon? Absent. Commissioner Rohan? Absent. Commissioner Stevens? Commissioner Bass? Absent. Commissioner Friedman?
Present.
Commissioner Holmes? Commissioner Nisley? Commissioner Spriggs? And Chair Gustafson.
Here. Thank you, Kelsey. And welcome, everyone. Do we have any changes to the agenda from
No
staff?
changes? No changes from staff, Chair.
Sorry, my watch is talking to me. Okay, then I would look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I'm not sure. I guess I'll go with Holmes and Burris, and then we'll divide up those when they're tie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Then we'll move to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience here to speak to us on an item that is not on today's agenda?
Actually, Madam Chair, I have a question. It's Judy.
Okay.
I don't know if Mr. Stevens is, I don't see him. I don't know if he's online. Am I there for?
He's here in live and in person.
Oh, I see him now. Wave hi, Rick. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, that was an easy question for today. Thank you, Ms. Friedman. Is there any other public comment, Chief? Were you here on another item? Okay. Anybody online for public comment? Okay. Then we'll move to consent items. We have 6 consent calendar items. Do any commissioners have any questions on these?
No, but I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Okay, I have a motion, a second. I'm assuming there's no public comment on this? Okay. Do you want to call roll since Judy's on? Okay.
Commissioner Burris?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Alpine?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Friedman?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes?
Here.
Commissioner Nisley? Yes. Commissioner Spriggs? Yes. And Commissioner Gustafson.
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on to item 6 on our agenda. This is the public hearing items. We have 2 public hearings today. Item 6A is the final work plan and budget for fiscal year 2024-25, and I will turn it over to Michelle.
Thank you, Chair. Let me just get the PowerPoint queued up here. Wait a second. Uh-oh, it's not working. Oh, here we go. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm going to start with the work plan because it's, the budget, because it's the same as last meet at the last meeting, which was the April 10th meeting to review and approve the proposed work plan and the budget. And so the proposed final budget is exactly the same as what was presented to the commission and what the commission approved. But there were a couple of items that the commission amended during the public hearing, and that was to change items 16 and 18 from high priority to moderate, and then add a service review for the cemetery districts, and then include issues or items on the work plan that staff is aware of, but may not be urgent. So as I mentioned, the final budget is exactly the same as what you received at the April 10th meeting. We're almost at 1.2 million, which is an increase of about 200,000. The red, the items in red, item 32 and 33, are the two new studies that staff is proposing. The first is the cemetery district. We did hear back from the Rockland, Newcastle, Gold Hill. I always mix up the order. We did hear back from them, and they requested that the commission include this item as a high priority item, and they pointed to some boundary issues that the district is having. And then the Eastern Placer County Fire Chiefs, I met with them, and they also want to look at possibly reorganizing, maybe looking for new funding opportunities and some savings. So let me just start with the cemetery districts and why staff is recommending we should move it to high priority. So these are all of the cemetery districts in Placer County. They, for the most part, follow the city boundaries, but there's a few areas that are problematic. So I'm going to go through the map exhibits that are in your packet. The first one is the Auburn Cemetery District. Now, the area that is highlighted in bright orange, so all the brighter colors on these exhibits are the problematic areas. So for the bright orange areas, these are the ones that should be part of the city of Auburn for the Auburn Cemetery District, but they were not included, and they're still with the Newcastle, Rockland, Gold Hill Cemetery District. And so it just, the reason why it's problematic is that for a person, you assume that you live in the city of Auburn, you have an Auburn address, and then when a loved one goes to, if you need services for a loved one, they are not eligible to be buried or entered into the Auburn Cemetery District. And so it just doesn't make sense. There are ways around it, but then it's more expensive for the residents. And then the Lincoln, the area highlighted in bright yellow, it should have been annexed to the city of Lincoln as part of that annexation, and it was not. Same thing for the city of Rockland. There's significant, I grouped the areas into TRAs because what is difficult to see in these maps is that these are, high density in some places, and they're developed areas. And so there's hundreds of properties that are affected. So it would have been very confusing and convoluted, so that's why I grouped them into TRAs. But all of these areas should be with the Rockland Gold Hill Cemetery District. And then same thing for this bright blue area, which should have been annexed to Roseville during the city annexation process, but was left off as an action. So, so just based on, and this was just a very quick view of what I did. I didn't do a quick or a deep dive into all the boundary issues, but these are the ones that stuck out as the sore thumbs. So that's why I'm recommending that we do put it, we do classify it as a high priority. So the other requests that we received are the fire services, a review of the fire services. And I think we may also need to review ambulance service for the East Slope because there are 2 ambulance providers, public and private. But dispatch, it's all under one, unlike the west side of Placer County, so that makes it a little bit easier. But certainly the fire protection, you can see by this map that there's several providers in the area, and they are, they abut each other, and it's just, there's opportunities, I believe, for reduced cost and more efficient services. So that's, and the other consideration is, I know we had talked about this, or the commission had discussed doing a service review study on a regional basis for the East Slope, similar to the past service review. But I think because these agencies are, they're willing participants, and sometimes we don't always have that situation. And I think we should go ahead and move forward and then get to the other services, perhaps in the next fiscal year. Okay, so the staff recommendation for this item is to adopt or adopt with modifications the final work plan and the budget. Resolution 24-04 is in your packet, along with the exhibits A and B, which is the budget and the work plan. And then the items that are numbered there are the amendments that staff is proposing.
Thank you, Michelle. Commissioners, do you have questions? Commissioner Holmes?
Oh, no, I have none, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Any questions? Don't see any lights going on. Jenny? Okay, any public comment on this item? Not seeing any hands go up, and no one's jumping to the podium here. So I'll bring it back to the commission. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the final work plan and budget for fiscal year 24-25.
I'll second.
Kelsey, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Stevens? Yes. Commissioner Burris?
Yes.
Commissioner Alpine?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlskent?
Yes.
Commissioner Friedman?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes.
Commissioner Nisley? Commissioner Spriggs? And Commissioner Gustafson.
Yes. Okay, and then we have a second item here, 6B, the fee schedule update.
Thank you, Chair. This is continued from the April 10th meeting. At the last meeting, the commission had requested that staff clarify which fees are deposits and which are charges where applicants are not expected to receive a refund. And so you'll see in the red, beginning on page 65, the red is the proposed amendments to the existing fee schedule. The first group of projects, the standard jurisdictional changes, where these are the annexations, the detachments, the changes of organizations that we handle on a day-to-day basis. These are fees, and the reason why they're fees is that they are based on experience and hours, and we know exactly how long it'll take to do these standard projects. The other projects are more, it depends. For example, the second group is the other jurisdictional changes. So one of the examples of an other jurisdictional change is a district formation. You could be forming a district with one service to a small neighborhood, or you could be forming a CSD or some larger district that encompasses the entire county or multiple counties with multiple services. So it just depends. So under this group of projects, yes, it's a deposit, and most likely we will be requesting additional fees, but there is an off chance that your project is simple, and then in that situation, we would be refunding some of the fees. And then the same with studies. So the thought behind the charges for the studies is that, as you just voted on, the commission has an annual work plan that has a budget, that's driven by the work plan. And so if we need to add a new study in the middle of a fiscal year, that may not be within our budget. And so if a special district or a city, similar to the Lincoln situation, where they paid for the consultant because it was not in our work plan, it was not in our budget, but yet we waived the cost for staff. And so that was the thought process with why we're charging for studies. It's only in those instances where it's not already in our budget. And then the other requests and charges, the special meetings, since we recently had an experience with a special meeting, we are not recouping all of the costs associated with having a special meeting, the staff time, the overtime, all of the costs that go along with that. And so staff felt that we need to increase that. The other change is that the implementing policies under 5C, just to clarify that these studies are from the fee reduction is only would only result from a Placer LAFCO adopted study or adopted condition of approval, as opposed to another agency. For example, if Nevada County wanted us to conduct a study, it doesn't fall under the automatic reduction. They would still need to go to you for approval. And with those changes, or with those, that was the changes that staff is recommending at this time.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there questions, commissioners? Yes, Dan? And let's turn on your mic. Just push that button and then we can, then they'll catch it.
First of all, this is so much simpler, more readable, and understandable. I'm really happy with it, except for one. And that is an out-of-service agreement, non-safety related. If I read it right, and it's a 5-acre property, $4,200 fee, right, for the, unless there's well, that's what I don't understand. $4,200 to get an out-of-service agreement, plus whatever extra. If I say I intend to annex, I pay $4,200, and then I pay $2,100 when I annex.
So that is the automatic reduction, but the proponent could request a waiver, or it would just have to go through the commission. Yeah, so that they wouldn't have to pay twice. But the thought process behind that is the process that it takes for an out-of-area service agreement is almost the same, isn't it? It's a baby step towards annexation. And so it requires a lot of staff work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments or questions on the fee update? Okay. Are there any public comments on this item? And again, for those of you who joined us late, this is item 6B. Not seeing any public comment on this item. I'll bring it back to the commission. Do I have a motion?
I move staff recommendation.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes and Mr. Carlstead. Kelsey, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Holmes,
Aye.
Commissioner Carlskin,
Aye.
Commissioner Alpine,
Yes.
Commissioner Burris,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens, Commissioner Friedman,
Sorry, yes.
Commissioner Nisley, Commissioner Spriggs, and Commissioner Gustafson.
Yes. Okay. Brings us now to, so we've completed items 6A and 6B, and now we have some business items, starting with item 7A, election of chair and vice chair. Yes, Mr. Stevens.
I would like to make a motion that we appoint Cindy Gustafson Chair for this next fiscal year and Josh Alpine Vice Chair for this next fiscal year.
Okay, do I get to say anything?
I'd like to.
Just say yes.
Discussion before we proceed as well.
Absolutely, let's have discussion.
So, as it's noted here on this item, we've fallen out of rotation to a point that's frankly confusing. I'd like for us to come back to the table and put together a new rotation. I'd like for us to get reorganized on that. I'm happy with the current appointments. I'm happy to proceed with those. But I do want to say, though, that I would like to bring forward potentially a board expansion to the city selection committee. And if that were to proceed, I think there would be a need to address the rotation again. So I'd be happy to go ahead and support that motion for today and, you know, for this year, and then with the intent of us revisiting the actual resolution.
Okay, other discussion?
I'd like clarification. So, could this be addressed in a policy update
Absolutely.
as we do it? So, in that way, as we're going through our strategic planning and the policies and the options in there, this could be one of the topics that we address in a policy.
Yes, that
Okay,
would be
and
ideal.
that'd be ideal, right? Than just coming as a business item and.
Because we need to
discuss it.
actually have discussion about it and work through it before a resolution comes
Okay,
forward
so-
for the policy to be adopted,
So
so.
this would be could be taken care of as we do our
Yes.
review of our policies.
Because I feel like under the options here, it kind of outlined that there was an intent that if we go with either option A, option B, or option C, that we would be inherently making a decision for the following year as well. So I wanted to provide that clarification. I support the appointments for this year, and then I want to make sure that we address this timely so that next year we have a clean plan and we know where we're going forward.
So, so just for clarification, I'm sorry if that was how it came across. That was not my intent. So the commission has a rotation policy, and every single year you may deviate from that. The problem is that we couldn't find record of why it happened when it did. And so, was it an oversight? Was it on purpose? We don't know. But every single time, the commission can appoint whoever they want. It's just the policy acts as a guideline. So I apologize if that came.
No,
off
it
that way.
actually made sense. It was completely understandable. If we were to stick with what we believe the rotation to be, it made sense as to guidance as to where it would send us. I think the problem is again, we don't know why we got there. I think it's just time to clean house.
I would agree with that too, Trinity. I agree with what's on the table for today. You know, I think as we all work together here and outside of this room, right, on all different types of projects, right, I think we all have I believe we all have a very a strong personal affinity for each other, right? And so I think where we're at right now, going through this process of reviewing the policies and correcting missteps of the past and doing the right thing and being transparent, right? I think that we do, so I guess essentially that's like option one is what we're talking about. Yeah, like going with option one today, committed to reviewing this over the next year as we do our policy pieces, because I think it's important. And then I know last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, at the strategic planning session, this piece about the cities came up too, right? And I understand that from what I understand, they had voted not to change the rotation, but let's support them however we can in the next year with what we can do. Because I know we talked about, oh, we can't do anything with it, but let's support the process. I'm all about that. And so I think today I would be in agreement with the option 1 that we're talking about too. I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
So sorry, I think that was my long-winded 2 cents on, I'm totally on board with it.
I see our legal counsel has his hand up. Maybe we should interject and hear if he has some advice. Mr. Walker?
I don't think that's his hand up.
Is that his hand? Oh, that isn't his hand. That was a cursor. Okay, Mr. Walker, sorry.
I have nothing.
Okay, I just saw a hand up in my rearview mirror here.
If I understand what you wanted, which is, you started out by saying that we needed it as an agenda item for a discussion to come up with a policy. That got changed to, well, we're doing policies, so that will happen. How are we doing the policies?
We
Are
have the
gonna
workshops
accept them?
agendized.
Yeah, are we gonna bring the whole policy book updated? Are we gonna do them one at a time? This could very easily get lost in the policy discussions.
So that is on the agenda for the 3rd workshop.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that were said in the discussion. One was possibly expanding the board, whatever they'd like to do. That's a discussion within the city selection committee. And they would have to vote, right? There's broken committees that are out, right? There's a special district selection committee, there's a city selection committee, and then the board of supervisors all have that make up of the general organization of LAFCO and how the representation is going to be seen. If it's something that what I heard earlier was to expand the board or do something, that would have to be discussed with that selection committee. And if that is something that the cities would like to bring, then that would have to come over here for a larger thing. But as to break that issue apart from just the policy of the rotation policy will be adjusted in our regular policies of just how the board is sit down, how the board, how the rotation works between the chair and the vice chair, et cetera, to clean it up. And in that, probably clarify the roles of the selection committees in that policy. Does that make sense, or does that clear as mud? Mud.
And Dan, part of what I was trying to highlight is I just wanted to make the board aware that there is that separate piece involving the city selection committee that's going on. I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware that that's something also happening separately that
That's happening.
may come back and affect this.
Yeah.
Well, I think right now too, right, it's like we're maturing as an organization. So a lot of these things, it's been, personal. We're now, it has to be process-based and process-oriented, and us focusing on the process. So, again, more, support for option 1 from my perspective.
Well,
I could break it one more time simply. Rotation, we'll address in a policy. The board composure of what we'll do is something that would have to come out of a committee, and it'd be a separate piece of
And the assumption is we're trying to address a problem that was raised by the executive director, right? Okay? That's one of the things. The other thing is there's a potential reorganization. But we don't control that.
We don't
at
control
all.
that. We don't control that. That's
Okay.
what's the whole thing.
So,
But
until the selection committee makes those grandiose decisions, there's not a lot of policy decisions that we can.
there is
make.
really nothing.
Certainly not rotation, except you could make it. with-
There is not even technically a rotation policy that's in question in the first place. All it is right here, right where it says what it was said in the 2008 when they're doing it. And that's my experience on this commission and Jim for multiple times. This has never really been an issue. It's always someone's been nominated who wants to be the chair, want to be the chair. It's always been good. I think that if we want to get into a rotation deal, which it seems like this body would like to, then we'll formalize the process and or formalize it as it's
Or
represented.
deformalize it.
Or deformalize it, or whatever you like to see. But we'll be doing it through the policy process.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say I appreciate the nomination, and I'm more than willing to serve, but I, again, have I don't have any problem if during this period of time, a month from now, or 3 months from now, or 6 months, there's an wholesale change, we can revisit this item, and I
I'm the same way too.
would be happy to revisit this item. There is no power or extra pay, well, I did
You wanna
get
do the
double
work?
the pay, no. No, I don't. And so it really is an honor, and thanks for, I'm happy to continue if that's the will of the board. So, but I, at any time, we can change.
No,
I have one
I'm
question.
now.
I apologize for missing the workshop, but on what you had said is every year, the board can make a change.
Yeah.
Just like every year, the city selection committee could make a change, or any of the others.
Right.
And so, is that a standard thing that every year that can happen if we make a policy, or?
That's already in the policy, so if you look on page 74 of
Right.
the packet,
But, I mean, can we change that to say, no, you have to do this rotation? Or is that a standard LAFCO thing that?
no.
So Jenny, that would have
would-
to be in the bylaws in order for it to be binding, which it's not. It's a policy, so it's a guideline. So as
And
long as
I-
it's a policy, it's a guideline.
And I wouldn't recommend adopting a policy that says it has to be this way, because, you don't know what the future commissioners, what their schedule is. It's a bigger commitment. As Chair Gustafson said, there's no extra pay, there's no extra anything, but there is extra work.
No.
And a lot of extra work, so it would be, it seems the way that it's written now, where you have an option to choose someone else other than who is scheduled to have the chairship, that works.
Okay, fair enough.
Go ahead.
I go, the way that you could always look at a rotation is if nobody wants to do it. And then there's a thing that says you're rotated into that so let's say, usually boards have a way of finding the chair, people, bringing the people that like to do the work. But let's say everybody's just busy and it just that rotation is there to just kind of be the rule decider of saying, hey, it's the city's time. Congratulations, you're the chair.
Yeah, and Jenny, I'd say at our workshop, I think we all agreed that we see a future that's stronger. LAFCO has a lot of work to do, and where we've come from, under Michelle's guidance and leadership, is to strengthen the relationships between us, but also our stature, and to be more organized as a LAFCO, and so really trying to be transparent with these guidelines, but also, I think, move us forward in addressing these issues in a systematic way. So to Dan's question on when do we get to this policy, I would say it has to be prioritized where it's appropriate, because we have a lot of work to do. And I look at our staff, and with Amy now out for a little bit, we need to realize we have one person there with the assistance of the county. Thank you. So, anyway, but I think we've come a long way, and we have more to do on all of these policies, and I think that's what Commissioner Rohan has been suggesting, that we do need to revisit these policies and be very transparent with our public and others. So, any other comments from commissioners? Otherwise, I'll ask for public comment on this item. Not seeing any there. Any online? Not seeing any there, then call the roll.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes,
Yes.
Commissioner Alpine,
Yes.
Commissioner Burris,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yep.
Commissioner Friedman,
Yes.
Commissioner Nicely, Commissioner Spriggs, and Commissioner Gustafson.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, commissioners. And thanks for getting through the most discussion we've had in a while at a agenda item. But it's good. 7B, LAFCO Annual Conference Information, Achievement Award Nominations, Board of Directors nominees, and voting delegates. Michelle?
So if anyone would like to volunteer to attend the conference, we do budget for, I believe, pretty much the entire commission to attend, because we do encourage, it's a great opportunity, not just for networking, but also for training. And so if you know that you will be attending the conference, please let us know now. So that's the first item. The second is that the commission will need to choose a voting and an alternate voting delegate. That could be any of the commissioners, regular and alternates, as well as staff. And then if anyone would like to run a seat, if you're a county member or a special district member, you may run for one of the seats. Huh?
I came up fast.
I know. So, so those are the requests from staff. Certainly, because there is a lot of time, we can bring this item back, but if you are aware now.
Okay. Are any commissioners know their schedules right now for October?
I'm good.
You want to go?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
I'd like to.
Okay, there's 3. I have to look at my schedule, so I apologize, I don't know. Dan?
That's the 17th.
Well, I
16th,
won't be able
18th?
to go.
In Yosemite?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll check with Commissioner Rohan as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So then why don't we get the full list and then bring it back to the next meeting on voting and all that? Or,
Or we can just choose an alternate, or a voting delegate and an alternate, for,
Didn't we make Josh do it last time?
yes.
I like that tradition.
well, I was gonna suggest Commissioner Holmes, since this will be his.
Jim would be
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm sorry, what are you doing to me?
I just back at you.
Boy, that was just
back at
fast.
you.
It was.
Well, I'm telling you.
We would ask you to be our voting member
Oh, okay.
at the conference.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd be happy to do that.
Right on. That'd be great.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. Do you want to choose an alternate or just?
Yeah, Josh will be the alternate.
Wow.
Okay,
Boy,
perfect.
that went fast.
You're welcome.
The
Okay,
Jim?
so with that,
I can't even
oh, you're
communicate.
still here, yay. So, I think that's all I need, and I'll bring this back with, perhaps in August. I don't think we need it
Okay.
in July, just to get a final head count, et cetera.
And then do we, are any of you interested in serving on the central region of the CalAFCO?
I'll probably run for special district.
Ooh, you
Yeah,
will?
right? 'Cause it's
Okay.
gay, right? And myself, so, let me look, I was just looking at who was the one I'm gonna have to go. Yeah, but I'll be interested,
Okay, perfect.
And if anyone else is, let Michelle know, and then we
Yeah.
can,
and I'll reach out to,
and
my
then,
other friend.
and then on awards, I was looking at the list of awards, and I really was feeling that, outstanding LAFCO professional, it sure seems like Michelle has brought us a long way, and we should, write up a nomination for her.
Yeah.
I agree.
And so you know how this is gonna work. We're gonna ask Michelle to help us write this nomination for herself, because I certainly think she deserves it, but I couldn't capture everything that she does for us, so. I'll work with her on it if that's okay with the commission.
Congratulations, Ms. Chair.
Okay. Are we done with that item?
Yes.
Okay, is there any public comment on that item? Not seeing any here in the room and no one raising their hand online, so we'll then go on to our CSDA presentation on 2024 legislative updates.
Thank you. I asked Dane with CSDA to present to us today because we are one of their newest associate member, and oh no, what's happening? And also wanted him to discuss some of the legislations that affect LAFCOs. I'm not sure where the feedback's from. Sorry.
Oh, it's when we're turning on the podium mic, but we're getting that feedback, so I'm not sure.
But I'll let Dane introduce himself and.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon, Commission. Again, Dane Wadley with the California Special Districts Association. As Michelle mentioned, also appreciate you guys becoming one of the newest members. Can we use this one instead? Okay.
Because we're recording it, we'd like.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Feel like I'm on stage. You don't want to see me dance. Anyways, so yeah, one of our newest members, right, of the association, which we certainly appreciate. And so Michelle and I were talking recently, and we thought it'd be appropriate time for her just to come by and give a little update to the commission. Very appropriate right now because a lot of the legislation that we're very involved with is not only applicable to us as special districts, but also cities and counties, which of course, you know, all of you are mostly a part of too. So. Yeah, I think in your packet you have our kind of monthly update that we put out, our take action brief as we like to phrase it. And it really kind of goes through the issues that we're following right now. And essentially on all of these, we are in, close partnership with counties and cities, League of California Cities, California Association of Counties, et cetera, on these issues. So, maybe on the first one, I'll kind of go through a little bit. I won't hit everything here because we'd be here way too long. But on the first bill actually is just a special district one specifically, but you'll be familiar with the issue because CSDA is essentially running a bill through Congress to try to get a federal definition of special districts into federal law. One doesn't exist now, believe it or not. And so it's been something we've been working on for a number of years, but really came to prominence during COVID, of course, when CARES and were coming out from the federal government. Special districts, because there was not a definition of special district at the time, did not get direct allocations, which of course cities and counties did. Necessitated special districts going to the state, cities and counties, for assistance for their COVID impacts, right? And so obviously, as you might expect, that didn't sit too well with us, so we are trying to remedy that situation by, again, running a bill to define special districts in federal law, and obviously put us on the same level with cities and counties, as you guys are all aware. So, HR 7525, that bill has passed. It passed out of the House about a month or so ago now. Overwhelming support, significant co-sponsorship from the California delegation too. So we're quite pleased with that, of course. And now essentially we're going to run a companion bill through the Senate. Go through that whole process. So anyways, good start there federally for that measure. I'll kind of leave the initiative to the end, but again, you can kind of see some of the other priorities that we have, again, with the whole talk of a potential climate bond on November that the legislature is considering, CSDA sponsoring with counties and special districts to try to get some funding allocated in that bond to meet the requirements of Air Resources Board's zero-emission vehicle fleet standards, right? Obviously, that was something that was passed last year. There's a number of timelines that are coming due this year, and there was no funding, of course, from the legislature for that. And so with this bond measure, we're trying to remedy that again with cities and counties. Also trying to prioritize some water infrastructure projects, which I know Commissioner Alpine's very familiar with in that bond. So we'll see from there. I'll kind of group the next two ones with development impact fees, obviously a significant issue for a number of our members, and some bills that we believe essentially kind of push back the collection of development impact fees in the process, which presents challenges, right, for all of us in local agencies as we're trying to, essentially finance development. I don't think I need to tell you guys about that, but so those bills are obviously a concern of ours. Likewise, 2557, again, partnering with cities and counties. This bill would make it a little bit more difficult to contract for various services for local agencies by adding some like new audit and kind of reporting requirements on some of these contractors who do work with local agencies, and they're obviously a little hesitant on that, understandably, and so obviously CSDA and other local agencies are opposed to that as well. The last thing, kind of going back to the beginning of the document, is the ballot initiative, Initiative 1935, which again, hopefully you're all familiar with. CSDA very active in essentially the campaign surrounding Initiative 1935 for the significant impact it's going to have on special districts from a financing perspective going forward, particularly with special districts who are so infrastructure focused. It's a big concern, to say the least, and something that's occupying a large amount of my time and our association's time right now, as we see what happens, first of all, in the next couple of weeks with the Supreme Court decision on the case that was brought up, but obviously the larger issue is in November with the ballot. So I'll go ahead and stop there if you have any questions. Again, appreciate your membership, appreciate the opportunity to address you on these issues. And, as always, if there's any sort of questions, issues, or anything that we can help out with, any of you, please don't hesitate to contact us. I know Michelle has our contact information, or has mine, and I think some of you commissioners have it as well. So, again, thanks so much, and I'll go ahead and stop there, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dane. Appreciate you being here and providing that update. Questions from commissioners?
Yeah.
Well, some of these are really going to be a challenge if they're passed, as in many laws that get passed. So we'll hopefully have a coalition opposing these.
Yeah, that's why we're obviously so happy we're working with cities and counties, because working together
Makes it go further. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any other questions here. Any public comment on this item? I'm not seeing any online either. Thank you, Dane. Appreciate you stopping by and waiting through our meeting.
Thank you.
And then we'll move on to item 7D, our executive officers report.
Thank you, Chair. So just a couple of updates for you for the Meeks Bay and North Tahoe Fire Protection District reorganization. We anticipate to have that before the commission at our August 14th meeting. We are still waiting for one more resolution from the Placer County Board of Supervisors, but it is on their calendar, and we should be receiving that shortly. I do have some updates on our ongoing service reviews. The fire study is on schedule. We should be receiving a draft at staff in July, and we can schedule, if everything goes accordingly, we can schedule the draft for our August 14th meeting, as well as the Rockland service review. The Rockland service review is ahead of schedule, so we have the admin draft in-house that is being reviewed now by staff. The Roseville service review is a little bit further out, and we anticipate having a draft to staff August 1st, which means you may not receive it until September, at the September meeting. And then also I just wanted to talk about our next couple of meetings, because as you saw, we are short-staffed, but there's some very important items coming up. So for the July meeting, we do have some budget adjustments that the commission will need to approve before the close of the fiscal year end. We do operate on a modified accrual basis, so the books aren't technically closed until the end of July. So we will need to come back for some budget amendments. And then I'm hoping to have the South Placer Fire Protection District Master Plan. Their board meeting is the same day as ours, and it starts in about an hour. So I'll need to coordinate with Chief Dewar to make sure that we can accommodate their schedule. And then in August will be our busiest busiest meeting yet for the year, with the reorganization for the fire protection districts, and then a fire study for the western side, and then a service review study for Rockland. So these are pretty hefty items. And then I don't know if it'll be July or August, but we may receive a request from the city of Lincoln for a reconsideration to have their item heard before the 1-year deadline has passed. I believe the city manager is working on either a letter or a resolution. They did submit their request already yesterday, but he may be adding to that submittal. So that will be either at our July meeting or at our August meeting. So that's my update, Chair. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Are there questions from the commissioners? I do. I have one. What kind of noticing, if Lincoln is resubmitting, it's going to be in July, what kind of noticing? Will we just put it on our regular agenda? There's no special noticing for that?
No, just the Brown Act requirement. And the reason why is that the commission is not making determinations on the merit of the application. It's simply the commission determining whether or not it would like staff to begin processing the application ahead of the 1-year cooling off period. That's what I like to call it.
Okay. Good to know. Any other questions? Not seeing any. Any public comment on this item? Okay. Then we'll conclude. And that was it for your report. So we're done with 7D.
Yes.
Before we go to commissioner comments, 2 gentlemen have arrived since we started our meeting who typically like to speak under public comment. Would you like to? We've already passed public comment on our agenda, but you arrived late, so I didn't know if you would like. You're good, sir? Thank you.
This gentleman, no comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then we'll go to commissioner comments. Item number 8. Yes. I could tell that this is gonna mean something.
Had some tone in it. I have a letter here to Chair Gustafson and Executive Director McIntyre. Dear Cindy and Michelle, in December of 2024, I will no longer be on the Truckee-Tahoe Airport Board since my term is over then and I'm not running for re-election. My LAFCO position expires when I'm off the airport board. Given all the work being done at Placer County LAFCO during the rest of the year, I believe this special district seat should be occupied by a longer-term person. Therefore, I hereby resign from Placer County LAFCO effective immediately. Sincerely, Rick Stevens, Director, Truckee-Tahoe Airport.
See ya.
That's it. Would you pass that to her?
No,
So I
you
will.
said, Rick, I would be surprised. I'm very surprised.
Can I object?
Yeah, I was gonna object too, but, thank you. And, Rick had called and told me that he was thinking he would do this, in light of
If you
terming out, and
disagree,
I
let
do-
me give you my wife's phone number.
I know that number, but you'll be a great loss, Rick. You've done a great job on this commission, and
Thank you.
we are going to miss having you here and on that airport district board. Any other commissioner comments? And no one else is allowed to resign, so just so you know. You can only take one of those at a time. Then if no one else has one, I have one. Michelle, since we just adopted our budget and our work plan for the year, it seems to me that given our workshop last week, our strategic planning workshop, one of the things the commissioners really talked about was transparency and education. So to get that out to our members.
Yes.
And make sure that they have a link to that and understand what's on our work plan. I think that will give them, if they bother to open the link and look at that work plan, I think it will help them understand a lot more about our timelines and the workload that we're under. So if you don't mind.
No,
It'd
I,
be a bad idea to put our org chart underneath that.
Yes, we could put the org chart there too.
The one-
Michelle? No.
Yeah. Thank you. And then number 9 is correspondence, support of AB 3277.
Yes, just very quickly, it's, currently, we are required to conduct a fiscal analysis for a district formation. And so this legislation, it was on the omnibus bill, but, after, discussions with ALGC, they, offered to carry the bill, but not as an omnibus item. And that's because, it's Rev and Tax Code 99. And so a lot of, it has a lot of attention from the cities and the counties. And so that's why it's a separate bill as opposed to an omnibus bill. And that's it from staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Any public comment on our correspondence? Not seeing any, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, Rick. Thank you for your service. Deliver that in person.